Chapter 53 Robert Ledibble. The protection of an pair engagement was so much the more feasible as there chanced to be on that wedding night a more than ordinary attraction at the Academia Royale. Levasseur, who had been suffering under severe illness, made his reappearance in the character of Bertrand, and as usual, the announcement of the most admired production of the favorite composer of the day had attracted a brilliant and fashionable audience. Morcerf, like most other young men of rank and fortune, had his orchestra style with the certainty of always finding a seat in at least a dozen of the principal boxes occupied by persons of his acquaintances. He had moreover his right of entry into the omnibus box. Chatty Renaud rented a stall beside his own, while Beauchamp, as a journalist, had unlimited range all over the theater. It happened that on this particular night, the minister's box was placed at the disposal of Lucien Debray, who offered it to the Comte de Morcerf, who again, upon his mother's rejection of it, sent it to the Danglars with an intimation that he should probably do himself the honor of joining the ball once and her daughter during the evening. In the event of their accepting the box in question, the ladies received the offer with too much pleasure to dream of an refusal to no class of persons in the presentation of a gratuitous apparel box more acceptable than to the wealthy millionaire who still hawks economy while boasting of carrying a king's ransom in his waistcoat pocket. Danglars had, however, protested against showing himself in the ministerial box, declaring that his political principles and his parliamentary position as a member of the opposition party would not permit him so to commit himself. The Baroness had therefore dispatched a note to Lucien Debray, bidding him call for them, it being wholly impossible for her to go along with Eugene to the opera. There was no gainsaying the having put upon the circumstances of the two women had gone without escort, while the addition of a third in the person of her mother's admitted lover enabled Maid Moiselle Danglars to defy malice and ill nature. One must take the world as one finds it. The curtain rose as usual to an almost empty house, it being one of the absurdities of Parisian fashion never to appear or to appear until after the beginning of the performance, so that the first act is generally played without the slightest attention being paid to it, the part of the audience already assembled being too much occupied in observing the fresh arrivals, while nothing is heard but the noise of opening and shutting doors and the buzz of conversation. Surely, said Albert, as the door of a box on the first circle opened, that must be the Countess G. And who's the Countess G? Inquired Shadi de Renaud. What a question now, do you know? Baron, I have a great mind to pick a quarrel with you for asking it, as if all the world did not know who the Countess G was. To be sure, replied Shadi de Renaud. The lovely Venetian, is it not? Herself. At this moment the Countess pursued Albert and returned his salutation with a smile. You know where it seems, say Shadi Renaud. Friends introduced me to her at Rome, replied Albert. Well then, will you do as much for me in Paris as friends did for you in Rome? With pleasure. There was a cry of shut up from the audience. This manifestation on the part of the spectators of their wish to be allowed to hear the music produced not the slightest effect on the two young men, who continued their conversation. The Countess was present at a race in the Champ de Mars, said Chateau Renaud today. Yes, bless me, I quite forgot the races. Did you bet? Oh, merely a parley, 50 louis. And who was the winner? Nautilus. I staked on him, but there were 3 races, were there not? Yes, there was the prize given by the Jockey Club, a gold cup, you know, and a very singular circumstance occurred about that race. What was it? Oh, shut up. Again interposed some of the audience. Why, it was won by a horse and rider utterly unknown on the course Is that possible? True as the fact was nobody had observed a horse entered by the name of Vampire or that of a jockey-style job when at the last moment a splendid roan mounted by a jockey about as big as your fist presented themselves at a starting post. They were obliged to stuff at least 20 pounds weight of shot in the small rider's pockets to make him wait, but with all that he outstripped Ariel and Barbary, against whom he ran by the least 3 whole lengths, and was it not found out at last to whom the horse and jockey belonged? No, you say that the horse was entered under the name of Vampa. Exactly, that was the title. Then as for that, I am better informed than you are. And now who the owner of that horse was? Shut up there, cried the pitying chorus, and this time the tone and manner in which the comment was given betokened such growing hostility that the 2 young men perceived for the first time that the mandate was addressed to them. Leisurely turning round, they calmly scrutinized the various countenances around them, as though demanding some one person who would take upon himself the responsibility of what they deemed excessive impertinence. But as no one responded to the challenge, the friends turned again to the front of the theater and affected to busy themselves with the stage. At this moment, the door of the minister's box opened, and Madame Danglars, accompanied by her daughter, entered, escorted by Lucien Debray, who assiduously conducted them to their seats. Ha ha, said Chatty Renaud, here come some friends of yours. Wiscombe, what are you looking at there? Don't you see they are trying to catch your eye? Albert turned round just in time to receive a gracious wave of the fan from the Baroness. As for Mademoiselle Eugene, she scarcely vouchsafed to waste the glances of her large black eyes even upon the business of the stage. I tell you what, my dear fellow, said Château I cannot imagine what objection you can possibly have to Mademoiselle Danglars that is setting aside her want to ancestry and somewhat inferior rank, which, by the way, I don't think you care very much about it. Now, bearing all that I mean to say, she is a deuced fine girl, handsome, certainly, replied Albert, but not to my taste, which I confess inclines to something softer, gentler, and more feminine. A well exclaimed Château Renaud, who, because he had seen his 30th summer kite, fancied himself unduly warranted in assuming a sort of patronal air with his more youthful friend. You young people are never satisfied. Why? What would you have more? Your parents have chosen you a bride built on the model of Diana the Huntress, and yet you are not content. No, for that very resemblance frights me. I should have liked something more in the manner of the Venus of Miller or Capua, but this chaste, loving Diana, continually surrounded by her nymphs, gives me a sort of alarm lest she should some day bring on me the fate of Octane, and indeed it required by one glance at Mademoiselle Danglars to comprehend the justness of Morcerf's remark. She was beautiful, but her beauty was of too marked and decided a character to please a fastidious taste. Her hair was raven black, but its natural waves seemed somewhat rebellious. Her eyes, of the same color as her hair, were surmounted by well-arched brows, whose great defect, however, consisted in an almost habitual frown, while her whole physiognomy wore that expression of firmness and decision so little in accordance with the general attributes of her sex. Her nose was precisely what a sculptor would have chosen for a chiseled Juno. Her mouth, which might have been found fault with as too large, displayed teeth of pearly whiteness, rendered still more conspicuous by the brilliant carmine of her lips, contrasting vividly with her naturally pale complexion, but that which completed the almost masculine look Mercer found so little to his taste, was a dark mole of much larger dimensions. That is, freaks of nature generally are placed just at the corner of her mouth, and the effect tended to increase the expression of self-dependence that characterized her countenance. The rest of the Mademoiselle Eugene's person was in perfect keeping With her head just described, she indeed reminded one of Diana as Shadi renowned observer, but her bearing was more healthy and resolute. As regarded her attainments, the only fault to be found with them was the same that the fastidious connoisseur might have found with their beauty, that they were somewhat too erudite and masculine for so young a person. She was a perfect linguist, a first-rate artist, wrote poetry and composed music. To the study of the letter, she professed to be entirely devoted, following it with an indefatigable perseverance, assisted by a schoolfellow, a young woman without fortune whose talent promised to develop into remarkable powers as a singer. It was rumored that she was an object of almost paternal interest to one of the principal composers of the day, who excited her to spare no pains in the cultivation of her voice, which might hereafter prove a source of wealth and independence. But this counsel effectually decided Mademoiselle Danglars never to commit herself by being seen in public with one destined for a theatrical life, and acting upon this principle, the banker's daughter, though perfectly willing to allow Mademoiselle Louise d'Armilly to practice with her through the day, took special care not to be seen in her company. Still, though not actually received at a hotel, Danglars in the light of an acknowledged friend, Louise was treated with far more kindness and consideration that is always bestowed on a governess. The curtain fell almost immediately after the entrance of Madame Danglars in the box. The band quitted the orchestra for the accustomate of hours interval allowed between the acts, and the audience were left at liberty to promenade the salon or lobbies, or to pay and receive visits in their respective boxes. Morcerf and Shadi renowned were amongst the first to avail themselves of this permission. For an instant, the idea struck Madame Danglars that this eagerness on the part of the young Viscount arose from his impatience to join their party, and she whispered her expectations to her daughter. D'Albret was hurrying to pay his respects to them. Mademoiselle Eugene, however, merely turned a dissenting movement of the head, while, with a cold smile, she directed the attention of her mother to an opposite box on the first circle, in which sat a Countess G, and where Morcerf had just made his appearance. "So we meet again, my traveling friends, do we?" cried the Countess, extending her hand to him with all the warmth and cordiality of an old acquaintance. "It was really very good of you to recognize me so quickly, and still more so to bestow your first visit on me." "Be assured," replied Albert, "that if I had been aware of your arrival in Paris, and I had known your address, I should have paid my respects to you. Before this, allow me to introduce my friend Baron de Château-Renaud, one of the few true gentlemen now to be found in France, and from whom I have just learned that you were a spectator of the race in the Champ de Mars yesterday." Château-Renaud bowed to the Countess. "So you were at the races, Baron?" inquired the Countess eagerly. "Yes, madam." "Well, then," pursued Madame G, with considerable animation, "you can probably tell me who won the Jockey Club stakes." "I am sorry to say I cannot," replied the Baron, "and I was just asking the same question of Albert." "Are you very anxious to know?" Countess asked Albert. "To know what?" "The name of the owner of the winning horse." "Excessively only mentioned, but to tell me, Viscount, whether you are really are acquainted with it or no." "I beg your pardon, madam, but you were about to relate some story, were you not? You said only mention and then paused. Pray continue."